What happens when one of Hollywood's most legendary actors comes face to face with a talk show host who seems determined to tear him down? You're about to witness one of the most awkward and explosive moments ever aired on live television. Harrison Ford, the man behind iconic roles like Han Solo and Indiana Jones, walked onto The View expecting a typical promotional interview. But what unfolded was anything but typical. Before we dive into this unbelievable encounter, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below with your thoughts on what really went wrong here. The studio lights burned hot as Ford took his seat across from the panel. It was a setup he'd experienced countless times before, another stop on the press tour to promote his latest film. A few laughs, some light banter, a clip or two, nothing unusual. At least that was the plan, but the moment Joy Behar opened her mouth, it became clear this was going to be no ordinary interview. Well, look who's here, Joy said with her trademark smirk. Harrison Ford, the man who's made a career playing the same character over and over. The other co-hosts squirmed awkwardly in their chairs. This wasn't the friendly greeting they'd practiced before the show. Offstage, Ford's publicist felt a knot form in her stomach. She had specifically asked producers to keep things light and respectful. Ford's jaw tightened slightly, though his voice was calm. I think you may be confusing me with someone else, Joy. I've played a wide range of roles over the years. Oh, really? Joy leaned in, clearly enjoying herself. Let's see. The grumpy pilot in Star Wars, the grumpy archaeologist in Indiana Jones, and the grumpy detective in Blade Runner. Sounds like a pattern to me. The energy in the room shifted. The audience, expecting charm and chuckles, fell quiet. Ford glanced toward the other hosts, silently pleading for a change of subject. But they just sat there, frozen. I'm here to talk about my new film, Ford said firmly, his tone sharp. Maybe we can focus on that instead of whatever personal angle you're working on today. But Joy wasn't finished. If anything, she was just getting started. Personal angle? There's no agenda, Harrison. Just calling it how I see it. You've coasted on the same roles for decades. When was the last time you actually pushed yourself creatively? The air in the room turned thick. This didn't feel like tough questioning. It felt like an ambush. A deliberate effort to embarrass a veteran actor on national television. You know what, Joy? Ford's voice had a crack of thunder in it now. I've spent over 50 years in this industry. I've worked with some of the greatest filmmakers of our time. I've played everything from carpenters to presidents. And I've never felt the need to defend my work to someone who spends her time gossiping on daytime television. The set went dead silent. Only the hum of the studio equipment remained. Joy's face flushed red, but instead of backing down, she escalated things. Gossiping? Is that what you think this is? She shot back. I'm asking real questions. Your fans care about? Or are you just too much of a diva to take some honest criticism? Ford stood up slowly, the scrape of his chair slicing through the silence like a blade. Honest criticism? That's what you're calling this circus? I've dealt with critics who actually knew what they were talking about. You don't even come close. Sit down, Harrison, Joy snapped, her voice now sharp with anger. You don't scare me just because you're some Hollywood big shot. This is my show, and I'll ask what I want. Your show? Ford's voice dropped into a low growl. Your show is a joke, Joy. You tear down people who build, who create, who contribute to culture. And what do you give back? Negativity and cheap shots. At least when I act grumpy, I get paid to do it on screen. Finally, the other co-hosts attempted to intervene, their voices panicked, trying to restore order. But the moment had passed. The damage was irreversible, and Joy wasn't done yet. You think you're better than us, don't you? She shouted. Just because you had a few hit movies, you think you can walk in here and talk down to us? Newsflash, Mr. Ford, your best days are behind you, and the world knows it. Ford's hands clenched at his sides, every muscle in his body stiff with restraint. For just a moment, he looked like he was on the verge of completely losing. The air in the room was so thick with tension it felt hard to breathe. Everyone present could sense they were watching something unforgettable, something that would be talked about for years. After Joy's harsh remark about Ford's best days being behind him, a heavy silence settled. It felt like time stopped. The studio was so quiet, you could almost hear the heartbeat of every person in the audience. Ford's publicist was frantically trying to get the producers' attention, signaling from the sidelines. But the producers looked frozen, stunned by the live train wreck unfolding in front of them. This wasn't just a tense moment anymore, it was live TV. Spiraling into something historic and uncomfortable, Ford turned slowly to face Joy, his gaze sharp and piercing, the same look that made him iconic in action films. But this wasn't a scripted scene. The fury building in his eyes was real. "My best days are behind me?" Ford said, voice barely audible, yet heavy with menace. "You want to talk about best days, Joy? All right, let's talk about yours. When exactly were they? Back when you were bombing on stage with stand-up routines no one laughed at? Or maybe when you were grasping for any relevance you could get by tearing down people who actually built something real?" Joy's jaw dropped. She clearly expected him to either walk away or take the hit silently. What she didn't count on was Ford coming back with such sharp, targeted venom. "How dare you?" She stuttered, her usual tough exterior slipping. "You don't know anything about my career, about my life." "I know enough," Ford replied coldly, standing tall over the panel like a judge delivering a final blow. "I know your career was built on criticizing others. I know you hide behind this all-female panel like it gives you permission to say anything cruel you want. And I know deep down you're not happy. Because people who are truly happy don't spend their lives trying to drag others down." The other hosts shrank back in their seats, stunned and silent. Nothing on the show had ever come close to this level of confrontation. Whoopi tried tossing out a joke to break the tension, but her words failed. Both Ford and Joy turned and stared her down without saying a word. "You think you can analyze me?" Joy's voice now trembled. It wasn't clear if it was from rage, fear, or something else entirely. "You don't know the first thing about me, you arrogant ... has-been." Ford let out a laugh, but there wasn't even a trace of humor in it. "Joy, I earned more last year than you'll see in your entire life. My films are still playing around the world while you're here, gabbing about celebrity gossip too. Fill airtime for bored housewives. If I'm a has-been, what does that make you? A never was?" the audience audibly gasped. People in the front row covered their mouths in shock. This wasn't just a heated exchange anymore, this was a full-blown public takedown. Live on air, Joy's face was turning bright red. "You really think money is everything, don't you? Just because you got lucky and landed a few hit roles, you think you're untouchable?" "Lucky?" Ford's voice suddenly boomed, making the entire room flinch. "You think I got here by luck? Lady, I spent years doing construction, taking awful acting jobs, grinding through rejection before I finally caught a break. Every role I've played, I earned, through sweat and perseverance. You want to talk about luck? Let's talk about how you lucked into this TV job with no real qualifications, other than your gift for cruelty." Inside the control booth, the producers were waving frantically, trying to get the show to cut to commercial. But Joy wasn't backing down. She had started this firestorm and seemed hell-bent on seeing it through no matter the cost. "At least I don't mail it in," she hissed. "At least I care enough to actually show up and give a real performance. Unlike you, just collecting a paycheck to mumble your way through the same boring routine every time." Ford moved in closer, and for a moment it looked like he might grab her by the shoulders. His face was flushed and his hands visibly shook with rage. "Mailing it in? You want to talk about mailing it in? Take a look around this place. Joy, look at this sorry excuse for a show where you spend your days dissecting other people's lives because yours is too dull to matter. And you call that interesting? You call that effort? This is the most pointless waste of airtime on television. And you're the reason why?" Joy suddenly shot up from her chair. At last, Ford stood tall, matching Joy's posture. The two glared at each other across the panel, like two gunslingers moments. Go for a duel. The atmosphere was suffocating, so heavy with tension it felt like the air itself could snap. "Get out," Joy growled, her voice dangerously calm. Leave my studio right now. We don't need you, your bitterness, or your tired movie star. Ego, Ford let out a cold, hollow laugh. Your studio? He echoed, almost amused. This isn't your studio, Joy. It's just a sound stage for your little gossip circus. You don't own anything here? Except maybe that seat you've been parked in for years, adding nothing to the world but cheap opinions and shame. Cameras captured every second, and what they caught wasn't just an interview falling apart. It was a full-blown public implosion. Two well-known personalities tearing each other to pieces live on air. Viewers were stunned, fully aware they were watching history being made. You want to know what your real issue is, Harrison? Joy snapped, her voice climbing in pitch with every word. You can't stand the fact that someone finally told you the truth, that your career was never great. You're not the hero you pretend to be on screen. You're just a fading actor desperate to stay relevant. The words hit Ford hard. His face turned pale, the sting of her insult visible. For a split second, he looked genuinely wounded, as if she had pierced right through to an old, hidden pain. Then that pain shifted into something colder, darker. His eyes filled with a furious calm that seemed to freeze the air in the room. Silence fell. Joy's brutal remark echoed in everyone's ears. Ford didn't flinch. Instead, something in his demeanor changed, a look of icy determination that warned he was about to deliver a blow no one would forget. The live audience sat completely still, breathless. They sensed it too, the moment before everything exploded, when Ford finally spoke. His voice was barely above a whisper, forcing everyone to lean in. Yet the quiet carried decades of Hollywood behind it, a weary, sharp truth spoken by someone who'd seen it all. You know what the world doesn't care about anymore, Joy? He said, it doesn't care about petty, empty people who earn a living by tearing others down. No one cares about bitter comedians who never had a joke worth laughing at. And absolutely no one cares about what you think of my career, or anyone else's, Joy tried to respond, but Ford raised his hand. Something about the way he moved stopped her mid-breath. She went silent, for the first time since this war of words had begun. I'm not done, he said, louder now, his voice gaining weight. You asked me when I last pushed myself as an actor. Well, let me ask you, when's the last time you pushed yourself to be a better person? When did you last use this show to uplift someone instead of breaking them down? When did you last look at yourself and ask if you're helping the world or just adding more poison to it? No one else on the panel dared move. The hosts sat frozen, unsure if this was real or a nightmare. Nothing like this had ever happened before, and they were completely unprepared. The cameras rolled on. Every second was gold, footage destined to be played back endlessly, debated for years. Joy's hands trembled now. Whether it was fury, fear, or something deeper, no one could tell. You self-righteous fraud, she hissed. You really think you're better than everyone else, don't you? Just because you starred in some films you believe that gives you the moral high ground? Ford's eyebrows lifted, clearly caught off guard. Moral high ground? Joy, I never said I was better than anyone. I'm just a man doing his job, trying to treat people with basic human decency. But apparently that's a foreign concept to you. Respect has to be earned, she fired back, her voice now almost a scream. And you've earned nothing but a reputation for being impossible to work with. Everyone knows it. This time, Ford laughed differently, with a real spark behind it, as if something had just clicked in his mind. Impossible to work with? He echoed, almost chuckling. You're right, Joy, I am difficult, when directors expect me to phone it in and pretend that's art. I push back when producers try to cut corners that compromise the final product. I know I'm demanding difficult even, but that's because I care deeply about the work. I care enough to give the audience my absolute best every single time. He paused, turning his gaze straight into the camera for the first time during the interview. And let me tell you something else. I'm difficult and demanding when people like you try to tear down what others have spent their lives building. So yes, I'm being difficult right now. And I'll keep being difficult until you learn how to treat people with basic human decency. Joy was practically trembling with rage. Human decency? You're seriously trying to school me on that? You've spent the last 10 minutes insulting me and my career on national television. I'm reacting to your attacks, Joy. That's a key difference. You started this whole thing by trying to embarrass me just for your own amusement. Everything I've said has been in response to your deliberate cruelty. But what really gets under my skin about people like you, Ford said, stepping closer to the panel, his voice now low, yet far more commanding than if he had shouted, is that you pretend you're just asking tough questions? That it's all just honest critique. But that's not what this is. This is you trying to wound someone because it makes you feel powerful. You use your platform to tear people down because you think it makes for compelling TV, and the saddest part? You probably don't even realize how broken you must be inside to take pleasure in other people's pain. For a fleeting second, Joy's face crumpled, as if something he said pierced through a layer she usually kept hidden. But just as quickly, her expression hardened again, and she struck back. Don't you dare psychoanalyze me. You arrogant fool, you don't know anything about my life or what I've been through. You think one conversation gives you the right to judge me? One conversation? Ford repeated, disbelief in his voice. Joy, this isn't just one conversation, this is your pattern. This is what you do every single day on this show. You target people, you mock them. You find their weak points and poke at them until they snap. And then when someone finally pushes back, you play the victim. In the control room, panic had taken over. Producers were shouting over each other should they cut to commercial, end the interview, call security. No one could decide, frozen by the shock of what was unfolding live. You want to know what I really think? Ford asked, voice rising with the weight of finality. I think you're jealous. I think you're bitter jealous of people who've actually created something meaningful in their lives, while you've spent yours sitting in that chair, gossiping, complaining, and offering nothing of real value to the world. Joy was visibly shaking now, her fury boiling over. Jealous? Of what? Your failing career? Your box office flops? Your desperate attempts to stay relevant in an industry that's clearly moved on? No, Joy, you're jealous because people still remember my work with fondness. Because when they hear my name, they think of stories and characters that sparked joy and wonder. But when they think of you, what comes to mind? What have you actually given to the world besides bitterness and cruelty? The room fell silent. His words lingered like smoke. Joy opened her mouth, closed it, then tried. Again, but no words came out. For the first time, she had nothing to say. Ford gave a slow nod, like her silence told him everything he needed to know. That's what I thought. I came here today to talk about a film I'm proud of, something I hope gives people a couple of hours of escape from their everyday pain. That's what I do. I try to bring magic into the world. He glanced around the studio, his face etched with disgust. But you take that magic and grind it down into dust. You twist things that once brought people happiness and make them feel cheap, ridiculous, worthless. And for what? Ratings? Attention? The sick thrill of making people squirm? Joy finally spoke again, but her voice was so faint it barely carried. You can't talk to me like this. You can't come onto my show and attack me like this. Your show? Ford's voice swelled into a full-throated crescendo. This isn't a show, Joy. This is a public execution disguised as entertainment. It's you and your panel sitting in judgment of anyone who dares to sit in that chair, whoever has the bad luck to walk through those doors. Well, I'm not just going to sit here and let you tear me apart for your audience's entertainment. He began walking toward the edge of the stage, but then paused and turned around one last time. You know what's truly sad? You probably believe you won something today. You probably think this dramatic exchange will make great television. But all you've really done is reveal your true colors to the world. And believe me, it's not a flattering look. Joy jumped to her feet, pointing angrily at Ford as he walked away. Don't you dare walk away from me. Don't turn your back on me while I'm talking to you. Ford stopped in his tracks, still facing away. I'm not walking away from you, Joy. I'm walking away from this poisonous atmosphere you've created. I'm walking away from a type of television that makes the world more hateful. and I'm walking away from people who treat cruelty as entertainment. You think you're better than us? Joy yelled after him. You think you're too good for this show, too good for me, too good for everyone here. Well, let me tell you something, Mr. Big Movie Star. We don't need you. We never needed you. Ford turned to face her one last time. His voice was soft now, almost filled with regret. You're right, Joy. You don't need me. But maybe you should take a hard look in the mirror and ask yourself if this is really the person you want to be. Because if it is, then honestly, I feel sorry for you. And with that, Harrison Ford walked off the set of The View, leaving behind a speechless audience, a table of stunned co-hosts, and one of the most jaw-dropping moments in daytime TV history. The cameras kept rolling as Joy stood frozen, still pointing at empty space, her face a mixture of rage and embarrassment. The other hosts scrambled to recover, to move on from what had just happened, but it was too late. The moment had landed, and the damage was undeniable. Everyone watching knew they had just witnessed something unforgettable, an on-air clash that would be remembered for years to come. So, what are your thoughts on this intense confrontation between Harrison Ford and Joy Behar? Have you ever seen anything like this unfold live on television? Let me know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe for more raw, real celebrity moments that you won't find anywhere else. This is the kind of no-filter, behind-the-scenes drama that shows what really goes down when the cameras are rolling and the masks come off.